Calaroga Shark Media. Hello and welcome to Murder Weekly. This episode is titled Bitter Hearts.
Detective Mark Anderson found himself at the center of a peculiar and grisly case. The sun was setting on February 13th, and the town was abuzz with anticipation for the upcoming romantic holiday. Little did they know that love would take a sinister turn. The scene was Max's Candy Emporium, a whimsical candy shop known for its extravagant Valentine's Day displays. The owner, Max, had discovered a gruesome sight that would forever mar the holiday's innocence. Inside a heart-shaped display case meant to house sweet candy hearts, he found a grotesque tableau. A box of candy hearts was arranged meticulously, each piece bearing a disturbing message. I hate you. Die. Goodbye. Amid the dark messages lay a lifeless body, a woman named Sarah Mitchell, known for her vibrant personality and love for all things sweet. Detective Anderson couldn't believe his eyes as he examined the macabre scene. The candy store was a kaleidoscope of colors, with heart-shaped balloons floating in the air and walls adorned with oversized cupids. It was a stark contrast to the grim tableau before him. Detective Anderson decided to have a one-on-one conversation with Max to get a better understanding of his relationship with Sarah Mitchell. They sat in a cozy corner of the candy store, surrounded by Valentine's Day decorations. Detective Anderson: Max, can you tell me more about Sarah? She was a regular here, right? Max's eyes softened as he began to speak about Sarah, his voice carrying a hint of admiration. Max: Oh, Sarah was a gem, Detective. She'd come in every Valentine's Day just like clockwork, always had a smile on her face, and her laughter was infectious. Detective Anderson: It sounds like you two were close. Max said, Well, not in the way you might think. I mean, she was a regular customer and we'd chat about the candies and chocolates. But she was so vibrant, always full of life. Detective Anderson asked bluntly, Did you ever have a crush on her, Max? Max's cheeks turned a faint shade of pink as he chuckled nervously. Well, she was a beautiful woman, Detective, but I never thought about it like that. Sarah was the kind of person who made everyone feel special. I just enjoyed her company. Detective Anderson didn't show any emotion. I see. And you mentioned those candy hearts with the negative messages were meant as a joke. Did Sarah find them funny? Max's expression shifted, and he looked a bit uncomfortable. Honestly, Detective, I didn't know much about those hearts. Sarah must have bought them somewhere else because I don't stock anything like that in my shop. Detective Anderson was still emotionless. Are you sure about that, Max? As Detective Anderson interviewed the patrons and staff of the candy shop, he discovered an eclectic mix of personalities. Among them was Molly, a young woman who had been browsing the shop for Valentine's Day treats. Detective Anderson: Molly, did you notice anything unusual while you were here? Molly, her eyes filled with concern, recounted her visit. I saw Sarah chatting with a guy near the candy display. She seemed friendly, like always. The detective made a mental note of the man Molly had mentioned and continued his questioning. One of the staff members, a young man named Jack, seemed unusually nervous. Detective Anderson asked Jack, Were you working when Sarah was here? Jack, his hands trembling, nodded. Yeah, but I was in the back taking inventory. I didn't see anything. Detective Anderson couldn't help but notice a small, candy heart-shaped charm hanging from Jack's keychain, a detail he filed away for later. Anderson collected the box of negative candy hearts from the crime scene, carefully sealing it in an evidence bag. He decided to take it to the police lab for further analysis, hoping to find any clue that might lead to the killer. Upon arriving at the lab, he was greeted by the eccentric lab technician, Dr. Oswald Krell. Krell was known for his brilliant mind, but equally known for his peculiar mannerisms and obsession with the obscure. Anderson had a request. "Dr. Krell, I have something I need you to look at. It's these candy hearts. We suspect they might be connected to a murder." Dr. Krell's eyes widened with a peculiar gleam as he took the bag from Detective Anderson. He examined the hearts closely, muttering to himself in an oddly sing-song voice. "Ah, candy hearts, the confectionery embodiment of human emotion. Fascinating, Detective, simply fascinating." Detective Anderson cleared his throat, eager to get some answers. "Yes. Well, we need to know if there's anything unusual about them. The messages on these hearts are quite disturbing." Dr. Krell nodded, his enthusiasm undeterred. "Of course, Detective. Let's see what secrets these little hearts hold." He carefully extracted one of the candy hearts and placed it under a microscope, his gloved hands moving with precision. After a few moments, he peered through the microscope and made an excited discovery. "Aha! This is no ordinary candy heart, Detective. The lettering here, it's not your typical food coloring. It appears to be made with a substance that could potentially be an allergen to some." Detective Anderson raised an eyebrow, intrigued by Dr. Krell's finding. "An allergen? Are you saying this candy heart could have triggered an allergic reaction in someone?" Dr. Krell nodded vigorously, his unkempt hair bouncing with his movements. "Precisely, Detective. This opens up a whole new avenue of investigation. We need to find out who gave these hearts to our victim and whether they were aware of this allergenic component." As Detective Anderson left the lab, he couldn't help but shake his head at the eccentric Dr. Krell. Though peculiar, the lab technician's expertise had shed light on a potentially crucial piece of the puzzle. The negative candy hearts were becoming a more significant part of the investigation, and finding out who had gifted them to Sarah Mitchell was now a top priority. On Valentine's Day, Detective Anderson gathered the patrons and staff of Max's Candy Emporium for a tense interrogation. "Detective Anderson, we've discovered evidence that points to one of you. We need the truth, and we need it now." The room fell silent, each person nervously eyeing the others. As Detective Anderson scrutinized the evidence, he couldn't help but notice the candy heart-shaped charm on Jack's keychain, a matching piece to the ones found in the candy display. Detective Anderson, "Jack, care to explain why we found these charms in your possession?" Jack's face turned ashen as he stammered out an explanation. "Jack, it was just a joke, I swear. Sarah and I were friends, and we thought it would be funny to prank Max with these negative candy hearts, but then she collapsed, and I didn't know what to do." Jack confessed to the accidental death, explaining that the negative candy hearts were meant as a lighthearted prank. However, the unexpected allergic reaction to an ingredient in one of the chocolates had tragically claimed Sarah's life.
Murder Weekly is a Calaroga Shark media production, written and hosted by Aidan I. Flanagan, produced by Mark Francis, executive producers Mark Francis and John McDermott. Calaroga Shark Media.